Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Courage Talks. Special guest today is Kim Levinsky. Kim is a ultra runner, endurance runner, a race director. In 2023, she got the record for the FKT, the fastest known time for the long path. I don't know if that still stands. It does?
Yes, it does.
Awesome. Great. So welcome on the show, Kim. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. So, the topic is Courage Talks, and the story behind podcast is my book, Against All Odds. You might see it right back there. It's my dad's biography where he demonstrated a lot of instances of acting with a lot of courage. So, I'm here to discover courage in other people's lives. So, what does courage mean to you?
Yeah, courage, it looks different for every person. It can be a whole continuing spectrum of something like you're just getting out of bed because it's really hard to start the day, or it could be something where you're overcoming a massive goal like running 300 miles. It truly looks different for every person out there.
Who's your idol for courage? Anyone you look up to from an example of courage?
Yeah, definitely my grandmother, Nana. She'll be turning 90 in December. The
Wow.
last 5 years or so, though, she's severely declined due to dementia. So that's been really, really difficult to watch. And it's kind of like people describe it as like the slow goodbye, the long goodbye. But she lived a whole life of courage. And I still think she is living that today, even with like her memory loss. She lost her husband when she was in her 20s. So she raised her 3 kids
Oh,
on her
man.
own, worked multiple
Really
jobs.
long.
Yeah, she worked multiple jobs late into her 70s. She really just retired before she started getting ill. But she's just an incredible, incredible human being. And she's definitely somebody I look up to.
Right. Any quote or anything that your Nana told you that stays with you? Anything that you would want to cite? Or any incident of your and your grandmother which is very close to you?
Yeah, definitely something that always sticks out to me in my mind is Nana would always say, if you don't say anything, nothing's going to change. So she was a fierce advocate for if you see something's wrong, like my family always jokes about, like there's a pothole in the road, she's calling the town and she was letting them know. But if she saw things that were an injustice, she was speaking up and doing something about it. So for me, that's something I'll always take with me is those words of like, if you don't say anything, nothing's going to change.
Very interesting. We know how you are, what you are today, but not many might know about your early days. So why don't you just take us down memory lane? Where did you grow up? What was childhood like? Were you as cheerful and jolly as a child, or it's taken time to get where you are now?
Yeah, I think it's definitely been a journey, particularly the last 4 or 5 years or so. But yeah, I grew up in New Jersey in the U.S. in a suburb outside of New York City. Grew up playing all different sports, everything you could think of. My parents were always very supportive of like all the extracurriculars. And when I went to college, I played Division III basketball and softball, so I was a 2-sport athlete, and always wanted to be involved in sports. So when that all ended, I was kind of like, oh, now what do I do? I was a college athlete when that ended. So I ended up taking a graduate assistant position at a Division II university and got my grad degree while coaching. And I stayed on staff for 6 years. That brings us to 2016 when I moved back to New Jersey, and a year or two later started my business with trail running. Kind of that brings us to where we are today, where I'm doing that full time with my race company.
And describe your running journey. How did you discover running? What's the first dear memory you have about running, and how did it feel when you started your run?
Running is always fun to tell the story of when I was growing up. Running was always like the punishment in organized team sports. So I had a kind of a dislike towards running. And again, it's similar to my career where like when college sports ended, there was this big gap of like, well, now I don't have activity because that was all I knew. So when I started going to grad school and was coaching, I was like, well, I guess I'll start running. I guess that's what people do after playing sports. So that would be like 2013 or so, was around when I started running, and I did my first half marathon. And I describe it as my personality is very much like all in, all or nothing. So it escalated very quickly where like I went from half marathon to marathon, and then marathon to 50K, 50K to 50 mile, 50 mile to 100 miles. So the course of like a year and a half, I went from like running nothing all the way up to running a 50 mile. And then a year or two later is when I got into the really long ultra marathons and kind of just kept going further. So after I did the 100, I was like, well, the next distance is 200. And I did that. Yeah. And then after that, I was like, well, I think you can go further. So that brought me to the 360 mile run that I did in 2023. So it's been kind of, it was maybe, I don't know if it's
very long journey,
unconventional, but yeah, just a lot of running in a short amount of time.
So incidentally, my first half marathon was on also 2013. And I'm not going to tell you my time because I'm going to be embarrassed when you tell me your time.
But no, time doesn't matter. I believe that. Time doesn't matter.
Yeah. So mine was a 2:22. And the best thing was that I ran nonstop. I was so worried that if I stop, I'll not be able to restart. So I didn't even stop for a water break or anything of the sort. Start line, finish line. That's it.
Wow. That's impressive. It's funny. I don't know. I feel like mine was longer than that. I did a marathon. My first marathon was in West Virginia. And I was such a new runner that like I didn't read really anything about it, not realizing that West Virginia is not flat, is very, very hilly. I feel like the marathon was at least 2.5 hours, maybe 2 hours. Or no, I'm sorry. That was the half marathon. The half marathon was like hours, 15 minutes. The full marathon was at least 4.5 hours, like 4:40 or something like that.
Yeah. That sounds more decent.
Yeah.
So a bit about road running versus trail. You graduated to trail really fast because you found good places to run to trail, or it took you time to embrace the trail part?
I think transitioning to trail was in large part because I met trail runners. I didn't really know trail running was a thing until I connected with people who were doing it. And trail runners are an enthusiastic bunch, I would say. Like, they really want you to try it out. And so I remember, like, my friend Hannah in Ohio, she did ultra marathons, and after I finished the marathon, she's like, well, 50K is only 5 more miles than a marathon. You should do a 50K. And I was young and dumb, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So I did the 50K and then the 50 mile. And I remember the 50K race, when it finished, I was like, I'm never road running again. I just had so much more fun. It was beautiful. Like, you're surrounded by trees and the woods. Also, the people were a lot more friendly, I found. I know it's like a broad generalization, but I found in my experience, trail runners are less preoccupied with like times and splits and everything. Like, it's generally less kind of competitive. And I was more drawn to that because my background of like really competitive sports, I was ready for a change, like trying trail running. That was my trails.
Got it. And when you have done a few races, a natural sense of gratitude comes in and you want to help the runners around you, especially when you're running a race. You know, there are people from all walks of life, younger, older. Some are very experienced, some are not very experienced. And I have that inclination of telling them, hey, don't do this. Hey, this is wrong. Hey, do this. Did that come to you naturally as well? You would like point out people that, hey, your stepping is wrong or your stride length is not correct. Did that ever happen to you?
No, definitely not. I'm very much not wanting to do that for anybody. And that, again, that's probably from my background of organized sports and being a coach. And like, just, I don't know, to me, there's nothing worse than like unsolicited advice from people. The other runners, I'm definitely, unless somebody asks me my experience, I'm not going to like, hey, I'm an ultra runner and I know everything and here's my advice. I want people to find the sport and enjoy it. And if they want help, I'm of course like always willing to help. But no, I don't like out tips and pointers unless it's asked.
Got it. How did Sassquad happen? How did the whole idea of organizing events come about? And if there's a story behind the name, please do tell us.
Inevitably, every podcast I'm on, people ask about the name because it's very unique. The story behind how it started, it was in 2018 was the first year. And I always had this idea of like, I wanted to put on a trail race. And at the time in New Jersey where I lived, there weren't a lot of trail running. Now there's a lot of races that popped up with really exploded the last couple. But at the time, there was really only one major race company in New Jersey. So people were looking for more events. And I was like very much plugged in with the trail running community, that I was hearing that from other runners. And so honestly, my friends just encouraged me like, hey, let's put on a free event where we'll just raise money for the local conservancy that maintains the trails. And so we did that. It was January of 2018. 100 people showed up to the race. And then after that, like, runners were just asking, when's the next race? When are you putting on another event? And it became serious after that. I really sat down and tried to figure out, like, okay, what can I do to make this work as a career? Because that was ultimately my goal of, like, I wanted to support myself in doing the events. And it took about probably 2.5, 3 years for me to go full time with the company. But now I've been doing it since 2018, and we have about one race a month spread throughout northern New Jersey and southern New York, around like the Hudson Highlands and the Shawangunk Ridge and the Catskills. And then in terms of the name, it's a combination of Sasquatch, the creature, and the word squad. So we took Sassquad, and the idea is like, everybody knows Sasquatch, like it's a universal, easy branding. The branding is like really great. And then squad encompasses like the main goal of creating this safe community that's accessible to new runners can come out, seasoned runners can come out, and just enjoy the trails all together. That's the story behind Sassquad.
And what's one thing about being a race director that you really hate?
That I hate? Oh.
Yeah. That's going to be a tough one, I know.
I know. That's a good question. I think it's probably, I wouldn't say I hate it. I would say it's frustrating when like I get an email from runners that ask a question that's like right on the website. The answer is right there. You're like, you didn't read anything on the website or the emails. It cracks me up when runners will email and be like, hey, do you have a map for the race? I'm like, dude, it's on the website. Of course I have a map for the race. It's truly like, I love it. I feel very lucky to be able to do something that I love and I'm passionate about. So the list of things that are annoying and frustrating is very small compared to the things that I really enjoy.
I think a close second would be requests for last minute cancellation then refunds.
That's true. You do have a lot of emails. Again, I'm learning. Like, I've now really plastered our deferral refund policy everywhere. So it's on the website, it's on the registration page, it's on your confirmation email. And then I'm learning little tricks with like creating email templates in Gmail, where when people ask about it, I just click the template button and it spits it out. I don't have to spend the time typing it up every time. But for sure, that's definitely a time suck for sure.
Got it. And you seem to be a woodworker. You like to handcraft each and every award which is given out after. So how did this whole start and what's the story behind this?
That was like a lot of things with being a small business owner in the early days where money's like really tight. You're just looking to pinch pennies essentially of like, okay, what can I keep in-house in order to avoid outsourcing? And metals was a big thing. And it's hard when you outsource it because you're always going to have to order more than you need. And then you have an inventory that's hard to reuse. There's branding on it. So I started looking into making my own awards. It started out truly completely handmade, where I had like this wood burner where I was like burning or painting. And that quickly became very hard to keep up with time-wise. So eventually...
I can imagine that.
Yeah, eventually I purchased a laser engraver. It's interesting because that really became a huge part of my business for a number of years when COVID happened. So when 2020 happened, all the races were shut down and everybody went to virtual events. I made a pivot in advertising. I found this really cool niche of creating custom medals for runners around the world. Literally, I was doing like international orders for people. I just advertised it like, hey, are you running your marathon on your own, your pandemic marathon? I had a little Etsy shop and I was just making hundreds of medals for people. So that was a way that kept my business alive during the months where the world was shut down. But now race company is so busy that I closed down the Etsy shop. I really only do medals for my own events. But yeah, it saved a significant amount of money. To give you an idea, like this last week, I had a part go down on my machine. So I was waiting for the part to be replaced. So I hired my friend to make the medals, and it was, it was $800 to pay for the medals. So if you think, just round it up to 1,000 times 12 events a year, that's a lot of money. It's definitely,
that's true.
It's paid for itself tenfold by doing it. And it's something that I really enjoy. It's a very creative process. Make the design.
I think it goes to show your passion for the sport. Anything that you go out of your way to do something handcrafted, definitely people would value and appreciate. And I'm sure your medal would stand out among all the other medals around there, which they all look alike after a few years.
It's very true. And from the sustainability side, it's super nice for always make extra. You don't want to run out, but because I make them, I can repurpose them where I can disassemble them and reuse the materials for the next race, or just carry it over to the following year. So in that way too, it's been super nice to have that flexibility.
That's true. Talking about COVID, your races stopped at that time and you went through a lot of difficult time. I think you were in depression for a while as well. Can you just walk us through what you were feeling at that time? Who did you reach out for support, and how did you finally get out of that rut?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like a lot of people, COVID brought mental health issues to the surface because everything did slow down and pretty much shut down. And then also we were all kind of stuck inside for the most part. There was walking and running, but besides that, everything was really brought to a standstill. So for me, it just brought a lot of things to the surface of where I realized I was using running to cope with those issues. And I realized it was finally time to address it, and with professional help and not just running. Because by that point, I was doing the 100-milers. I was training for a 200-mile race, and the depression was still there. It was just a Band-Aid every time. Like I'd go out for a run, I would feel better, and then eventually those feelings would come back. Thankfully, I had great friends who provided support and really encouraged me to consider reaching out to get help with the depression. And it was actually through a nonprofit called Bigger Than the Trail, who now I work with to do a lot of advocacy work. So they raise funds through trail running, like races and folks doing individual fundraisers, in order to pay for people to get free therapy. So cost-free therapy, no strings attached. You can sign up and you don't have to be a runner to get the therapy. So that's what I did. I reached out to them, and within a couple days, I was started with a therapist, which was amazing because it really took away so many of the obstacles and the barriers. And for me, excuses, they were definitely excuses of like, well, I can't find somebody, or insurance, or whatever, the cost. And this was like, it gave me 3 months of free therapy where I was able to meet with a therapist weekly. And then after that, they also offered discounted rates for therapy. So it allowed it to be something where I could stick with it. So truly, it changed my life. That was in 2021. And honestly, I could say it saved my life. I was really, really low with depression. And I think like a lot of other people, it was really hard. So being able to talk to somebody and work through the issues that I had, I'm just so thankful for it. And so that's why I do so much work with Bigger Than the Trail. I'm one of their ambassadors. I do a lot of fundraising and advocacy work. We raise funds for them with Sassquad Trail Running with a lot of our events. Just so, they help me so much, I want to make sure that other people can continue to have mental health access.
No, that does make sense. It really helps to be able to talk to other people who've gone through that. So this association that you mentioned would have been a big support, I guess, from relatability perspective. I was reading somewhere you organize trail parties. They're not trail runs necessarily. There are trail parties as well. So the party element is to get the fence sitters to come in and think that it's going to be a bit of fun as well and not going to be a gruesome trail all the way. Is there a secret behind it?
That's exactly what it is. We really work hard to make it a fun and welcoming space. And for a lot of new runners, the word race is intimidating. And I make sure our cutoff times are very generous so that they are hiker friendly. Yeah. And I've learned through conversations that hikers are very intimidated by the word race and running, because I have conversations all the time and I invite people to races and they're like, well, I'm a hiker, so I can't run. And I say, well, first of all, it's a trail party. It's not a race. And second of all, you can hike. You don't have to run at all. So yeah, the idea of the trail party, it's just like putting a fun twist on our events to make them more welcoming to all different types of people.
Got it. And in 2023, you did the Long Path, the longest trail in New York area. Did you intend to crack the female LKT or it just happened?
Yeah, that was the goal going into it. It was actually our mutual friend, 𝗘𝗽𝗀𝗀. He pitched the original idea. So I was speaking with him the year prior to setting the record. And he's the one who said, he's like, Kim, there's no women who have done the FKT. At the time, it was just him and another couple of other guys who have set records. He's the one who encouraged me and was like, Kim, you should do it. Set the record, get a woman's time out there. That was the goal, was to finish it, to establish a women's record. And I had an incredible amount of support that helped make it happen.
Walk us through the crew configuration and how do you decide how many people you want? What do you choose? Who's a good crew member? Are they all professionals or these friends who are volunteering? Or is it a combination of the two? Just give us more deeper insight into the planning of the crew around here.
Crew, really, it's like, who can I convince out of my friends to come do something really dumb, you know?
Or you want to test their friendship by saying, okay, if you're my real friend, then you will come and crew me.
Exactly. It's who can I convince to come? No, but it really wasn't. There wasn't much convincing that needed to be done. My friends were really excited about it. The final count was over like 20 people who were involved in it. And like I ran the first, maybe it was like 20 miles by myself. And then the rest, so like 340 something miles, was with friends that came out. So we had pacers that were with me from start to finish. And then the crew was in an RV. I rented an RV. And basically we leapfrogged with them where they dropped me off at the start of the section. And then I would go anywhere from 8 to 20, 25 miles and meet them at the next stop. It just totally depended on where we were at on the trail. But yeah, the crew was incredible. I would not have finished without my friends who were out there.
Got it. And to get an FKT in a difficult, difficult terrain trek like this, what's the strategy? Are you trying to go fast? Are you trying to improve your moving time faster as much as possible? Or are you trying to reduce your quantum of rest time as much as possible? Or it's a combination of the two?
That's a great question. In my particular circumstance, the weather was a massive challenge. It was just the timing of it. Unfortunately, it was during a historic storm that came through New York, Vermont area, where over the course of the 9.5 days, we got over 8 inches of rain, which is a lot of rain. Honestly say the first 2 days had that mindset, really trying to focus on the record and move as fast as possible. But then once the weather came in, it was like, we're just surviving out here and the goal is to finish and just to do my best each day. So I had an ABC plan going into it, but by day 2, all of those were out the window. It was we were totally like, oh my God, because not only was the challenge of the trails being completely flooded, there were river crossings that weren't there before. There was huge challenges with the crew because roads were flooded out and closed down. It truly became a game of what's going to happen today and how are we going to work through these problems. It was just so much problem solving. Ultimately, I was way far off of the original goal that I had set, but ultimately the number one goal was to finish and we achieved that. So strategy was maybe day 1 and day 2, it was like, let's try to hit these mile markers. But then once the flooding and the storms, the monsoons came in, then it was a matter of like, we just got to get to the end of each day and do as many miles as physically possible. I was averaging 18 to 20 hours on trail every day because I was moving, because I was so much slower. I wasn't wanting to do 20 hours a week, 3 hours of sleep each night, but that's just what it became because of the trails and the roads and everything.
So you couldn't increase your moving time, you couldn't increase your moving pace because you had to reduce your rest time because of all the challenges that you were having. So you were resting less, you were moving, but you were moving slow. And that probably means that you could have actually done an even better timing than what you ultimately achieved as the record, if the weather would have been nicer and better.
Yeah, it's a theory on paper, which is probably correct, but we'll see.
I'm just encouraging you to go back again and do a better one.
And the thing is with running...
Look in here. From this point to this point, you were 2 hours slow. From this time to this time...
Well, this is the thing. The problem is the more time that passes from 2023, the more runner amnesia happens where you're like, oh, it wasn't that bad, was it? I think I should try it again, type of thing.
Yeah. So. But to all the problems that you faced, I would want to cite what a dear friend of mine told me when I had a DNF in the Ironman Barcelona last year. I was like, I got a DNF. He said, any event which lasts for 17 hours, you can't say anything for sure. So to say to you, any event which is going to last for 10 days, you can't take anything for guaranteed. There are so many variants which would come in. I mean, God, human beings, natural calamity, whatever. But on top of that, you had the IT band, and I had an IT band and a normal day-to-day running training course. And I decided to skip my first full marathon because I had the IT band. You had the IT band flaring up at 40 miles, and then you carried on after that?
Yeah, it was really weird. I still don't know what happened. But I think part of it, I do think there was a lot of anxiety with the weather. And I was kind of watching it in slow motion of like, oh man, just because you start doing the math in your head of like, well, if I fell short 10 miles today, what does that mean for tomorrow and the next day and stuff like that. So part of it was the mental component. But also too, like I've read a lot about, and my friends were telling me how it is fairly common for thru hikers and people who are doing multi-day efforts of like the first couple days, your body just kind of freaks out and it's like, what is happening? Why are we doing this? And these kind of pains creep up. And my friends, thankfully, again, like because of crew is why I finished, they kept telling me, just keep moving. It's going to go away. And it was so hard. Like I didn't believe them. I was like, there's no way this is going to get better. And sure enough, once I got to day 3, it was just gone. There was no more pain. The IT band pain was gone, which like if you've experienced it, it feels like there's a hammer going into the side of your knee. And then for that to just disappear was pretty wild. I still had pain for sure. My feet were very sore from being wet. I experienced the whole, what is that called? Swamp foot or something like that, or trench foot, yeah. Where your feet just don't have time to dry out because they were wet for literally 20 minutes. So that was the pain I had. But the IT band pain, yeah, it was wild. It went away after 2 days.
I think the pain also couldn't do any harm to you. It was like, if it's not going to impact her, I might as well go away.
Exactly.
But you would have had a lot of low moments, and I'm sure your crew was there not just to help you in the tough times, but to pick you up in those low moments as well. So what works for you, Kim? What triggers you to get up and start running when you're down and out?
There were definitely a few different things that helped. Number one was knowing that I had to get back to the RV in order to get rest. You couldn't just quit in the middle of the trail. You still had to get out. Yeah. So that was highly motivating. But 2, my friends who were there pacing me, they did a phenomenal job with these situations. So oftentimes they would, number one, they would remind me, these are your goals. You set these goals of 1, setting the record for the women. You're doing that. You are on track. You're doing that. Number 2, I was fundraising for the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference and for Bigger Than the Trail. So that was a really big motivator of like, remember, Kim, all the people you're helping through this, people are going to get help to mental access because of this run. So that was highly motivating. Another really crucial thing they did was we had a really large group chat, like a text message going, where people were sending in messages of encouragement to me. So a lot of times when I was feeling discouraged, the crew would pull up that text message and they would just start reading notes from people that were like friends. A lot of people I didn't know, they're strangers who were following the journey, but that always would get me up and moving again because it was just knowing like so many people were rooting for me and the team and they wanted to see me continue forward. That was highly motivating. One of the biggest takeaways for me was just inner strength was something that it sounds silly, like I've done a lot of really hard things in my life, but the long path experience was really the first thing where I felt like I really accessed that part of myself where I could dig deep and say in my mind, I am and I can do this, and I'm going to get up and do it. What was so powerful about this experience was there was synergy and magic that happened by combining those two things, accessing that inner strength that I had inside of myself, but then also combined with all of the people that were surrounding me, was incredible. It was just so amazing. And honestly, there's so many times now, like we're 3 years out from the run, where just this winter, like I struggle with seasonal depression. Like I have a lot of hard moments during the winter. And I thought a lot about the long path this winter. Like I actually, at one point, I was going through this like really low stretch, and I took a picture from the long path and I put it right in my living room where I could see it every day. And it was a picture of me on the trail, one of my favorite spots. And it's just cool. I think that relationship, that crossover between mental health and these endurance sports, it's like a coin with two sides. When I'm out on the long path, I did think a lot about moments where I struggled with depression, and where I always, even when it was like the lowest and darkest that it could be, I got up and kept going. And so I would draw on that when I'm out on the trail. And then vice versa, in these moments when I'm really struggling with depression, I'm able to draw from those experiences long path and think about laying down a rock and wanted to just close my eyes, and I got up and I kept going. You know what I mean? It's so special, I think, to find that kind of, I don't know, that synergy between the two things is really powerful.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think there were a couple of things that I wanted to mention. One is when your crew was encouraging you, telling you that for all the people that you're running for, think about them, and that would encourage you. So this marathon in 2019, I was running a full marathon in Mumbai in India, and I had planned to dedicate my run to 4 people who had lost uncles and family members. And I had cramps at the 8-kilometer mark in both my legs, so bad that I had to like stop for a bit. And despite those cramps being there, I completed the marathon. Of course, it was a horrible timing. I did slightly over 5 hours. But the very fact that I continued running was because I had decided to dedicate that run for someone. If it was just for me, I would have just raised the flag and kind of DNF. But the fact that I knew that I was doing for someone and I didn't want to let them down, that stayed with me. Last year, I did my longest swim. I did a 6K swimathon in a river close by. And the irony was the swim was on 4th of April. And on 20th of March, I went through a minor arthroscopic knee surgery. So technically, I just had 2 weeks time to be ready for the swim. And obviously, 1 week was complete rest. So I literally had just 1 week to practice. So I probably did like a 2K and I did a 4K, and then I went to the 6K swim. At 4 or 5K, I was probably in a shape where I wanted to give up. But the fact that I had decided to dedicate the swim to a dear friend who had lost his son just about a month back kind of pushed me through. And in fact, when I gave the medal to my friend, I told him, look, I have to dedicate this to your son, because the fact that I was swimming for him helped me pull through. It does help. We tend to undermine. Many times the event is over and the winner comes and says, oh, I dedicate this to this one, or I dedicate. Doing a dedication later on, I mean, it's nice you're dedicating it before the event. That's where the real power comes in. That's where the power of the other person is going along with you all the way, as you experience and as I experience. The other point I want to mention was about the messages that you were getting during this. And that's one positive aspect of social media. Random unknown people are like wishing you, pushing for you, egging you on. And if I was one of those thousands of people messaging, I would be like, oh, there are thousands of people messaging Kim. What difference does it make if I message or not? Maybe I should not message. But now think of you. For you, every message finally leads to that series of messages, which creates that impact. Yeah, maybe one message from me might not have made a difference. But if that one message would not have come from me, and like that many messages would not have come, that sequence would not be there. That impact would not be there. And I'm sure you would not have got that wow. So we have a saying in Hindi. In Hindi, it says, "Boond boond se banta hai sagar." Every drop contributes to the ocean. If the drop starts thinking that I'm inconsequential compared to the ocean, you'll never make the ocean. Because if every drop starts thinking. So I think that's a good analogy that you mentioned about how these small messages carried you through as well. That's a phenomenal learning, I would say.
I love that. So true. And really, it's such a gift that I wasn't expecting to, because I still have those messages. I still have them. It's something that I can look back on. So I agree. And I love that saying. I'm going to have to, I'll get that from you afterwards. I want to write that down.
I'll text you for that. Yeah. And you know what? This has actually helped me to reverse my complete analogy. 4 years after I started running, I changed my plans. Earlier, I would actually not tell anyone that I'm going to run this race or I'm going to do this marathon. Because that big question always was there. I don't know if the run is going to go well or not. I don't know if I'm going to finish or not. I don't know whether I'm going to really enjoy the run or not. Why should I message in advance? And then I would feel really cutting a sorry face saying that, oh, I had a DNF. Then I flipped it over and I said, if I start announcing, I'm actually getting the good wishes of all the people in advance. And that's going to boost me. That's going to pick me up in those down moments in that time, ensuring that I don't have a DNF. So I actually reversed my entire social media strategy from a stage where I would not talk about it, only post once I've finished the event. I was posting about the event 2 months in advance, 3 months in advance, building up the hype and telling people, look, I'm doing, look. I'm sure there are some people who would be like, hey, this guy's showing off. He's going for an Ironman. He's just showing off. I don't care about those people. But there are 10 other people who are encouraging me and saying, oh, I can't even run. I can't even swim. I can't even bike. And you're doing all three. Go ahead. And you know what? Even if you have a DNF, they're still supporting you. They're not going to cut contacts with you just because you had a DNF. You're not lesser of a hero just because you failed. In fact, the respect goes up as well that you attempted and that remains with you. It's a great analogy that I've understood as far as social media is concerned and how do you treat it.
I love that because you never can truly know the impact that you're having on other people. Like I know sharing the journey publicly, I struggle with that as well. Of like, oh man, I'm really putting myself out there for this. I think when I was really struggling, like those first 2 days, those were thoughts in my head of like, oh my God, this is going to be embarrassing. We're going to quit after 2 days. But ultimately, I was able to finish. But I've heard so many stories from people who were like, I was following your journey and it encouraged me to start walking. That's it. Just walking. Like people who were completely sedentary. One of my close friends, she started running again. She hasn't been running for 10 years or so. She has some health stuff.
Okay.
And she watched the movie. And because of that, I'm going to restart my running journey and get back into this. So, yeah, I think you said, you just don't know the impact that it might have on other people.
True. This is a question which I'd asked Jenny Hoffman as well. She did the coast to coast. When you're doing this extremely long race, and since you are chasing a record, you might not have had many moments where you'd be like, hey, just let's sit down and just enjoy the sunset, or hey, just let's enjoy this beautiful view. Have you had the plan that, okay, I want to go back and watch that sunset again without any pressure of time? Has that happened, or have you done it, or do you plan to do it?
That's a great question. I knew that would happen during the FKT. I knew we were going to see incredible, beautiful things, but it would be very challenging for me to truly appreciate it because of how hard I anticipated the experience to be. So I really spent a lot of time during training going out on the trail and having those moments and really slowing down so I could appreciate that. I took a lot of pictures and videos during training because I knew that even I had a goal of wanting to take pictures and videos during the run. I knew it wouldn't happen because I would just be really tired. But all that being said is I go back out on sections of the trail all the time. I love the long path. It's incredibly special to me. It always will be. Yeah, I was just there this past weekend. I was out on the long path up in the Catskills, and it's something where I'll always continue to go back. There's some of my favorite trails are out there,
So I'm reading Ken's book. The difficulty in reading a book is that you can't visualize the scenario or the scenery which is being depicted, even if it's extremely elaborate and beautifully written as Ken writes. So that's the advantage. You have a documentary which allows me to see the visual part of what he described. But you know what? A lot of athletes, a lot of sportsmen look at their own videos to study and analyze and pinpoint and poke holes and make, identify mistakes. Hey, I played that shot wrong, or here my footwork was wrong. Do you do that in your own video? Do you try to overanalyze and say, hey, maybe I could have done this differently? Does that thought come across?
That's a great question. There's certainly many things where hindsight is 2020, where I would, differently for sure. But the focus of the film, and you've seen it, is really more so on mental health and helping people get access to care and have those conversations. So, yeah, I mean, the film has been such an incredible. I know how lucky I am to be able to have that forever on screen. Where, like, this was such a huge experience, and to have it captured in a way that the filmmaker, his name is 𝗟𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀, did is incredibly special. I feel very lucky about it.
Yeah. You're an inspiration for a lot of people, not just the running part, but the way you fought your mental health challenges. I'm sure many people must be accrediting either their running journey or getting out of the mental health because of your story and how your story inspired you. But who inspires you? Who are the runners in the circuit, past or present, who you look up and say, hey, she did really good, or she's the one who kind of did a good job? Any names that you would like to share?
Yeah, even though I'm in the space professionally, I don't closely follow professional runners. That being said, to answer that question, I would just say there's so many runners within my personal community where I really just respect and admire. And as a race director, I have a really unique opportunity to meet literally thousands of runners every year who come to the start line, finish line. And rather than list people individually, I can say I've had so many experiences where people will cross the finish line at my race and they'll take a moment to share with me. This was my first run ever. I've never run before and it's changed my life. And maybe they did a 5K, maybe they did a 100-miler. Those are the people that truly inspire me. I'm so inspired by older runners who come out to the races. We have 70-year-olds, we have 80-year-olds come out. And to me, that's really inspiring, especially older women who come out. And we have a trail festival in September where the cutoffs are very, very long. So we give like 36 hours to finish a lot of the events from 50 miles up to 100. And we give 13 hours to finish a 50K, which is very generous. So because of that, we have a lot of hikers who come out, but we also have a lot of older athletes that come out. It's so special to me when I talk to folks. They're accomplishing lifetime goals and they're like a 70-year-old woman. Like that is so inspiring to me. I want to keep moving when I'm older. I find it very, very inspiring.
Any run that you have run yourself and you would have loved to be the race director?
Any run? What was the question again? That I would like to be the race director for?
Yeah, any race that you participated as a runner that you would have loved to be the race director for?
Oh, I see. Great question. I don't think I've ever had that thought. Oh, I would love to be the race director because I truly just enjoyed the experience of being a runner.
Because as a runner, I can tell you, we tend to judge race directors. Hey, this is not okay. This should have been here and this should have been here. If that thought overpowers you to an extent where you say, so many things were wrong, I could have done this race so much better. So that's the logic behind this question. When you run a lot and then you become the race director, because now you have a wiser perspective. If you had pinpointed 10 flaws in a race before you became a race director, probably now there would be like 2 or 3 of them, because all the others are something that you now understand much better because you're on the other side of the fence.
Totally. I think if anything, I probably swing the other way where like I have more kind of compassion and understanding as a runner. I think it's easy. Correcting it was very easy to be like, oh, they should have done this. Kind of like that armchair quarterback mentality. Now, as a race director, when I go into running events, I'm seeing it with just a totally different lens of like, oh my God, logistics involved in this, like how much work it went in to do XYZ and the amount of hours and stuff like that. It's giving me a greater appreciation for the amount of time and work and logistics that go into producing events.
Yeah, got it. A couple of few heavy philosophical questions, if you may allow. What's one question you're still seeking an answer to?
Oh, man. I mean, how deep?
You didn't see that coming.
How deep do you want to go? I struggle with, we don't have to go this deep, but like the questions that keep me up at night is like, what happens after death? Like life after death, which I think, if anything, has given me a greater drive and appreciation for life. I come from a background of very strict, organized religion, which I'm no longer a part of. That's been a part of my journey the last 3-4 years. It's kind of untangling, wiring, unpacking that, and now revisiting those questions where I thought my whole life I had answers to. It's a matter of I'm learning to be okay with the unknown. Where I've landed, nobody really knows. How could you know? How could you know what's going to happen after death? You know what I mean? I don't know if that's where I wanted to go. And
No, I think that's a great answer. I think that explains a lot. Okay. What is it that you know for sure now, which you didn't know while growing up?
I like going deep. So I'll say this. I know for sure now that I believe human beings are inherently good people. I really, truly believe that. people are good. They're not in need of an external source in order to be good. Humans have a profound capacity to love. I think that is, that's how I would answer that. Human beings are capable of being good, and they are born good, and they have the ability to do really good things in the world.
That's a beautiful line that you said, that humans have a profound capacity to love. And if you ask me, something that struck me this morning, because I was approaching a potential guest for coming on Courage Talks, and his first response was, hey, I'm not an endurance runner. I've not done any physically significant achievements. And one of the points I want to mention was, every human being has the same amount of courage. The only difference is some people have discovered and some have not. If you don't encounter, or if you don't put yourself in enough situations, you will never know what courage you are. And same holds true for love. Till you don't give out love, you will not know how much of what's your overall capacity for love. And actually, it's infinite. So you can keep on giving it out and it's never going to get finished. You might perceive that you got tired or exhausted of the act of giving, but the love is not finishing anytime soon.
Absolutely, yeah. And kind of like along that same vein is like, not only do we have profound capacity for love, what you just said about having courage, and we have so much power within ourselves to accomplish things in life. I know it can sound cheesy and kind of woo-woo, but for myself these last few years, like going back to the long path, and I was talking about finding that amazing synergy between finding what's inside of myself with inner strength, and then also the amount of impact that can happen when other people help you towards a goal. But that can only happen when you let other people in and when you let other people love you.
True. For the next one, I'm going to give you a choice. Okay. Either describe yourself in one word, or if you're going to write your memoir today, what's a suitable topic that you would want to title your memoir as?
Well,
and you can answer both. If you're extremely happy, you can answer both.
So our friend 𝗘𝗽𝗶𝘀𝗀𝗃, he started a book club last year, a writing club, and he pushed me to join it. And so I've been writing about the long path. I don't know when I'll ever finish that memoir, but it's something that it's been a very helpful process for me to write and rest and get those ideas all down on paper. So that would probably be the starting point, would be the long path, but then exploring like other life experiences that I've had. They're all kind of together in the long path. I think that's the direction I would go.
Any quick ideas what the title could be?
I do have a working title that's not real.
Let's hear that. Unless you want to keep it under wraps or confidentiality and blah, blah. That's okay.
Get it word for word because I don't have it in front of me, but it was something to the effect of, quote, I'm fine, everything's fine. My journey of using Ultrarunner to solve existential crisis and my experience of leaving a religious cult. It was something to that effect. A real eye grab.
I get the drift.
Yeah.
Okay. A book or books that you have been inspired by? Anyone?
Oh, so many. I'll just say what I'm reading right now is a book about dementia. Yeah. It's been very helpful for me as I've been navigating the relationship change with Nana. And the title is Loving Somebody with Dementia. And that's been really helpful. It's almost like it gives you permission to feel those really hard things of grief with somebody with dementia, because I'm reading it, it's out on paper, and I'm learning I'm not alone in the way that I feel.
Any running related book that you would want to cite or quote?
Oh, any running book. My whole bookshelf is full of them. Let's give a shout out to Ken. Ken's book, The Long Brown
Chasing
Path.
the Grid?
Yeah, well, Chasing the Grid is his most recent, and then his book about the Long Brown Path is great. There's another through hiker, 𝗓𝗏𝗃, has a great book called Love in the Long Path. So if you're looking to learn more about the long path, those are two great memoirs to check out.
Awesome. Okay, here comes the favorite part. What's the question you have for me?
Question for you. Are you interested in doing multi-day events like this?
You know, I've never done that. I've not gone beyond 56K ever. I've never done ultras beyond 56K. So first I'll have to do a 24-hour run before I start doing multi-day. But what I've learned from getting 𝗟𝗏𝗃 on the podcast earlier, then Ken, and now you, I know it's something which is worth trying it out. So I would never say never. In fact, I was saying no to ultras for a very long time. And it's thanks to these podcasts that two dear friends of mine who came on the podcast, they kind of almost convinced me that Comrades is one race I should do. And if I have to do Comrades, then I'll have to probably do a couple of long ultras before. So I'm looking at Comrades 27. So I'm hoping that I might probably get to a 75K or 100K distance. If I get to that, then maybe a multi-day run should not be very far off this year. Maybe I might come down to New York and go for the long path with you.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, I'll flip one of your questions on you. What's one question that you have that's unanswered? I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
Is there a finite limit to wisdom? I'll explain that. So I've been on a rampage of reading books from 2019 onwards. I was not a voracious reader at that point of time, and I was like, this is one thing I want to correct. So I've been reading 100 books every year for the last 7 years. And I realized that I've started reaching a stage where like, hey, I know this. I actually reject books looking at the title. And in fact, I read a really beautiful book called Why We Meditate. I'm saying it's good because it's genuinely a good attempt at explaining meditation. And it's a great combination of Western author with a Tibetan monk, the best combination you can get on the topic of meditation. But I was not wowed by the topic. And I realize it's because I've gone through so much on that topic that I've reached a stage where, okay, you need to do better. This is not going to impress me. But I hope the answer to my question is no. I hope the wisdom is infinite, because I would die if someone tells me, no, you reach 99.9% of wisdom. There's only 0.1% to be known. Like, what am I going to do for the next 30 years of my life?
Yeah, I don't think there can be a limit. I don't think there can be.
Yeah, because wisdom is evolving. The whole base of knowledge keeps expanding as humans expand. That goes to show the power of human potential. We don't rely on existing content. We create content. And it's not just the influencers on LinkedIn who are generating content through AI. I'm not referring to them. But there are people who want to go beyond what they know. And when they go beyond what they know is when they discover. And when they discover, they are creating maybe a version. A lot of people tell me, and being a Hindu, I would probably want to agree that everything, all knowledge in the world is described in the Bhagavad Gita. May be true, may not be true. But the version of Gita that you quote is as important as Gita. So as a Hindu, if I'm saying, no, only Gita is enough and your knowledge is not enough, I can't live in the society, because the society is formed by amalgamation of different thoughts. And that's what makes wisdom unique. If a runner speaks about his body, his version is more important or equally important as a doctor. Yes, a doctor is coming from the science background and you need to give him that respect. But you have a practical wisdom of how your lung was operating during the run. A doctor would have to respect you and say, no, sir, you know better. As when it comes to running problems, I would consult you. And in fact, that's what I discovered when I had a science doctor, sports medicine doctor, coming on my podcast yesterday. And he acknowledged the fact that because he had run himself, he's a better doctor. Not just for runners, but for non-runners as well. He says, my running has helped me become a better doctor.
Yeah, I love that.
Sorry,
that's awesome. Totally.
That was a very long answer to a very short question. But thanks a lot, Kim. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and continue doing all the awesome work that you're doing. And I hope to see you when I'm there for the New York Marathon later this year.
Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed this conversation with you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.